Hi, welcome to Improving Instructional Video Effectiveness, Insights into Viewers' Wants and Habits. My name is Matt Pierce. I'm the Learning and Video Ambassador for TechSmith, and I'm really grateful to be here with you today. This presentation is part of World of Learning and the Learn World's 2001 Summit. Where I'd like to start today is talking just briefly about some of the benefits of video. First of all, with video, you can show and tell. You get two streams of information that our brains are uniquely qualified to be able to process both. You can handle the audio stream, you can handle the visuals. Now, that can get way overwhelming and complex quickly, but the good news is with tutorials in particular, if we keep it simple, there's a lot of information that you can convey. The other thing that you can really convey well is movement and motion, whereas a static image, it's great, but it might not convey some of the complexity that happens as things are moving. So that's just another benefit. In particular, if you want to orient someone quickly to say where a button is on a screen, or you want to help them to see how something moves, video is really, really powerful. One of the other things that's really true about video nowadays is that video has become almost nearly ubiquitous. It is so easy with a device like this, a smartphone, to be able to create video almost anywhere. It used to be that you needed a lot of complex equipment, but now it can be very simple and very straightforward. With that said, though, there of course are challenges with video. Video is not perfect. It is not a silver bullet to solve all solutions. Some of the things to consider with the challenges are that video sometimes takes time to create. You need the right resources, whether it's just a smartphone or you want to get something that looks more professional. You're going to have to invest in those resources. You're also going to have to learn how to use those resources to make sure you're making something that looks good. And finally, one of the other things you need is some of the skills that are required to make videos. Now, these don't have to be difficult to learn, but it is a skill. It is much like learning to write good documentation, create good images that are going to help someone understand. Video has components that you're going to need to take the time to learn. Again, it doesn't have to be difficult, but I do think you need to invest a little bit of time to learn the techniques, learn the software to make yourself even more effective. One of the things I want to talk about today is a study that TechSmith ran. We ran a study that looked at both instructional and informational videos. So we weren't looking at entertainment or funny videos or things like that. We were looking at videos that had these specific purposes. So here's some of the things that we looked at. They had to watch an instructional and informational video in the past 3 months for work-related purposes. They came from a variety of industries, and they were either employed or self-employed, full or part-time. Here you can see the countries that we primarily focused on, of course, the United States, but also Canada, France, Germany, the UK, and Australia. Now, again, as I mentioned, we really focused on those instructional and informational videos, and you can see the definition on the slide here. But I want to make sure this is emphasized because, again, we know there are a lot of purposes for video, and a lot of times video ends up being for entertainment purposes. If you go to YouTube, you probably understand that. But video can be really powerful in these two mediums, and so we wanted to understand viewer preferences around these types of videos. One of the other pieces of this study that I want to set up is that not only do we ask for preferences and kind of their ideals, we asked them to provide us with an example of a video that they thought was good. It had to be, again, instructional or informational. And then we were able to take those videos, watch them, and code them for different attributes. So I want to talk a little bit about those results as well. The last thing I want to talk about this study is that we've run this study several times. We ran it in 2013, 2016, at the end of 2018, and we are looking to run it again here in 2021. So the data is a little bit older. It is pre-pandemic, meaning I think that probably some of these things that we'll see are going to be a little bit different, but hopefully future studies will help us to understand how the world has changed. So one of the first things to look at is just viewing behavior. How often are people watching instructional or informational videos? Interestingly enough, we see that people are really watching, on average, the most 2 to 5 times a week. That's not insignificant. That is actually quite a bit of video, depending on the length of those videos, the time commitments to those videos. And one of the things that we can see is that over time, our trend has increased, and I expect that this has continued, especially with more remote work and work from home. But we see that in 2013, we're at 21% of people watch 2 or more times per week. And in end of 2018, it was 53%. So we can see that video has become really an essential part of people's kind of daily and weekly experiences. which means there's competition there. We need to make sure our videos are working well, providing good information, which we'll talk more about here, but that we're capturing attention, because in that sea of videos that people are watching that are informational and instructional, you could see it would be easy if yours wasn't meeting the needs to get left behind. Now, as we look at this is about viewing behaviors. When do people prefer to watch videos? We see a little bit of heavier preference from 7 to 9 p.m., which is interesting because we asked them to talk about videos they did and they watched at work. But I think generally speaking, people are going to fit in videos when it makes sense. And it could be, and this is important to think about, that maybe people are watching videos because they don't have time or permission, and not maybe explicit permission, but implied permission, to take time to learn during the work week or during their work day. So something just to consider here. There's lots of times. I don't think we have to think about that too heavily, but it's something I felt like it was worth mentioning. All right, well, let's dive into figuring out how to make more effective videos. I wish there was a magic wand or a piece of equipment that I could say, just go buy this, that would solve all your problems. But there's not. This will take some work. There's going to be some effort, some trial and error, and some practice that's going to be done. As you get started, one of the things you're going to want to start with is the goal. Now, all instruction should have a goal, but you'll want to be thinking about what type of video you're going to want to create. Why are you creating a video? Does it have something unique about the topic that you're creating that will be best served? Or is it going to be better served through a job aid, a typical like e-learning course, things like that? Now, as you're laying that all out, you want to think about that goal, the outcomes, and then think about what's going to help you to get there. Are there things you're going to need to show? Are there things that you're going to need to say? And as you do that, you really want to start thinking about the design, the overall flow of information. This is the best place to start with any video, because if you go jumping into a video and just try to create it, it's not going to work well. You're going to end up spending a lot more time trying to create something and messing up, making mistakes, forgetting things, having to go back and redo things than it will be if you just start planning from the beginning. Now, when you're starting to think about what's going to make a good video, there are lots of things that can make a good video. You probably have opinions. I have opinions. It doesn't make them right or wrong, but what you do want to think about is, what is the impact you're going to have on your viewers? What are the things that they are going to need? What are the things that they're looking for? What is it that you can help them uniquely with? But we're going to look at some more research, which I think will inform us about what is a, quote, good video, so that we can make some good decisions. One of the first things I want to talk about here is length of video. Now, this is a question I get all the time. People say, Matt, what is a good length of a video? And the thing I want to say is that it really just depends. I know it feels like a cop-out answer, but it's so important. Here's why. Because when we looked at what made for a good length of video, a lot of people said 4 to 6 minutes. But a lot of people also went on to say it was more than that. And as you look at the slide here, what you'll see is that we've got 5 to 6 minutes, 3 to 4 minutes, same amount of people. But look how many people said 7 to 9. Now, if you would have asked me a couple years ago what makes for a good length of a video, I probably would have said 2 to 3 minutes. But I think when viewers are asked their preferences, which isn't everything, it doesn't mean it's scientifically the best data, but what I do think it means is people are okay with a longer video. And we'll talk about some of the requirements of what makes that okay for them. Because it's not just that you give them a video, they're like, oh, I'll watch any 7 to 9 minute video. That's not the case. But you can have longer videos. I think a couple key criteria to start with: does it need to be that long? Are you giving them only the important information? Have you cut out all the extraneous things that are going to take them up and out and all around that they don't need to know? If you're doing that and you still need 7 to 9 minutes, you're going to be okay. Now, the mantra that I like to put forward to everybody is short as possible, long as needed. And if that's true for any video you create, it's short as possible, but long as needed. Viewers will be okay with the length. Next up, we need to look at why people stop watching videos. So if you have a video of any length and people aren't getting to the end, there's a reason. And we want to maybe be able to preempt that and help them to not stop so they get all the information. Now, in some limited cases, it might be okay that they get only a little bit of it because that's all they needed. But when we do have information they need to go from start to finish, let's look at a few of the things that people said about why they stop watching videos. First, they weren't getting the information they expected. This means there was a disconnect between the title, the thumbnail, the description, or whatever the lead in to that video was. And as they started it, they started watching it and said, wait a second, this isn't what I need. This doesn't answer my problem or solve the things that I need. So we want to be really careful that we're presenting our videos in a way that they understand what they're going to get. You're matching the expectation with the reality of what the video can provide. Next on this list, it says I was bored or uninterested. I can't really help them. Now we can do lots of things to make our videos more interesting. I don't think it's our job to necessarily entertain them, but we also don't want it to be a boring video, one that is just like droning on and on and on. Next up, I had something else to do. Again, I can't really help them with that. If they're too busy, we need to make sure that their managers, their support teams, whoever they're working with, are giving them time to take the learning, to watch the video, to do the things that we need them to do so they can perform better, understand, be safe, or whatever it might be. Next up there, and there's a few others I won't go into as much detail, but it didn't cover the right topic. I think fits with the information one. I got distracted. The quality was poor. We'll talk a little bit more about what that means. But you can see there's a number of reasons why people stop watching, but it doesn't really say anything about your content. Your content can be good. As long as it's matching the expectation, you can have people watch all the way through. Now, let's flip that on the other side and see what keeps viewers watching. So this is why people are interested in videos. So let's go through these quickly. One, I was genuinely interested in the topic. So you might be working in a closed environment where you're saying, hey, they need to understand this. We don't really care if they're interested in it. We need them to watch it. However, even in those scenarios, there's a reason why they should be interested. It might keep them safe. It might help them perform better. It might protect them. It might protect the company, whatever it might be. And you should lay those out up front so they understand why they should be interested in the topic that you're presenting. Now, if you're training your customers, you're going out to maybe, like we do a lot of software training on our products, and we want to help them understand, like, why is this feature so valuable? Why should you understand how to apply it? And that's on us to make sure they understand that. Next, content was relatable. They want to see things that fits into their world. If you watch a tutorial and you're like, I don't know when I would ever use that, it's not going to feel like it's valuable, and why should you watch it? The speaker can be a piece of that. The professional styles or video effects have some play. It has good music or audio. That can be a play. We'll talk about music here in a second, but also unique and humorous. I don't think our corporate videos need to all be stuffy and boring. So let's lighten them up a little bit, have a little bit of fun within reason, and also knowing that there's a time and a place. If it's a super serious video that's, something that is really important, maybe we don't use humor for that, but maybe that's the appropriate time to use it. I don't know. You'll have to decide that. You'll have to understand your own culture. But just know these are some things that they said were reasons why they would watch a video, and it kept them watching. I had mentioned that we had looked at, it was about 100 different videos that people sent us that said, these are good examples. These are some of the things that we found that were common elements in those videos. So let's take a look. First of all, clear audio voiceover. Audio has to be clear. You have to understand that if video has bad audio, people will stop watching. They might take some blurry video or shaky video, but if the audio is hard to understand, game over. Next, they wanted camera video showing real world content. Now that makes sense in a lot of places. We do a lot of software tutorials and we don't show real world content because that's not the context of what we're teaching. However, if you can bring in some of the real world, maybe even your own office, your own environment, or your own people, that can be really powerful. Other things, there was some kind of hyperlink or call to action, something clickable that you could go get more information. You could go get a procedure. You could go to the website. You could go do whatever activity it is that you need to do. And a couple other things here, title clips, text overlays, you got transitions, visible speaker in the box. You can see there's a lot of different things here that these videos had in common. But you don't need all of them. Here's the thing I'd say is if you try to put all these elements into your video, you're going to way overdo it. But pick a few strategically, test them out, see where they get you, and see the results. In some cases, it won't make sense to have some of these things. Maybe it doesn't make sense to have a speaker on camera. Maybe it doesn't make sense to show real-world video or include music. But whatever it is, you're going to want to pick a few of these and apply them judiciously so that way you can enhance the quality of your overall video. We've talked about a lot about adding things and things that shouldn't be there or things surrounding the video. But one of the tricks that I want to put forward, and I've already kind of said this, but as you're making your video, a really important principle is to cut as much as you can. Again, remember, short as possible, long as needed. And the idea is get rid of all the stuff they don't need. Now that could be like on a screen video, maybe you're showing a loading screen and it's waiting and waiting. Speed that up or cut it out. They don't need to see that whole process to understand what happens. Now you have to understand, like show them the upload process if they don't know that process. But let's say everyone in your organization already knows a step. You could refer them to that step without having to show it explicitly. But be very careful that you don't leave out those key pieces, but cut away as much as you can. Get rid of the extras, get rid of the rabbit trails, the tangents, the things that you don't need. And again, you'll make a better video. Now, one of the things that comes up often is that people will ask me, Matt, what order should I invest in? Should I go get a camera because I want to make really good videos? And no, you shouldn't. Don't go start with a camera. The order of operations for investing in and improving the overall quality of your videos, which will improve the ability for them to perform well, is first, invest in a good microphone. You don't have to spend a lot of money. You can get a good desktop mic for $100, $150 US. It will make a world of difference, but have a good microphone. Next, I recommend you go get lights. You can see I've got some light here today. It's nice and even. I've got 2 lights. I spent about $250 US, but a little bit of lighting is going to go a long way at improving the quality of your video because whatever camera you're using at that time is going to love light. Your lens and your sensor and your camera love light. So if you're using your webcam or if you're using a DSLR, more light is going to be helpful. The last thing you should invest in is a camera. So if you want to spend a lot of money, you can go out and get a really fancy camera for tens and tens of thousands of dollars. You could also spend $1,500 and get a DSLR. Or you could go get a webcam and just upgrade from what was ever built into your desktop. You can choose to invest differently here, but I really recommend if you're going to spend any money, microphone, lights, and then camera. I want to talk about some of the elements outside of the video that I think are as important as the elements inside the video. The first one I call signaling. And we talked a little bit about this in terms of viewers stop watching when they don't get the content that they expected. If it doesn't feel relevant to them, they're not going to keep watching. And so signaling is a term I use to say, like, this is how we let our viewers know what this content is about. So unlike a document or a book, you can't just flip through a video very easily and know, hey, this is what this is about. You could kind of scrub through it, but that takes time. But we have some elements that are usually associated with video that are really important. Title, description, and then the thumbnail, what you're going to display before they ever push play. And you may or may not be able to control those elements, but each one of those should be set in a way to, again, help set the expectations so the viewer understands what they're getting. You're signaling to them, this is the value. This is why you should watch this. And it's more likely they're going to look at that first and determine how they're going to treat that video. Are they going to pay attention? Are they going to open it up on a second screen and let it play and just kind of listen to it in the background? Or maybe just let it play and not even have it on audio, so they get the credit for it, but they never actually watch it. So we want to make sure our signals are set up right to make sure we're bringing those viewers in, they understand the expectations and what they're going to get. And in some cases, you might even explain why that's relevant to them. Why should they care about this material? Let's look real quickly at how many of our people in our study found recent videos. Number one, they searched for it. As much as you might want to think that people are just getting help from your content, it's not true. They're going to YouTube, they're going to Google. In fact, YouTube has become such a powerful engine for finding how-to tutorials that I like to call it the #1 how-to engine, because there's lots of great information that is not just for fun, but really it could be business oriented as well. Next, people are sharing videos or they're required to watch it. That is not uncommon. Someone might have posted it or shared it with them directly. So maybe in their Slack group or on Teams or whatever messaging services you use, someone might have posted it to be watched. So people are finding videos in a lot of ways. And that's why it's really important that those signals are strong, so that if someone gets there like, well, Susan shared this video with me, what's it about? If she didn't tell me, the title, the description, and the thumbnail are going to give me the clues to know, like, should I spend time watching that? So real quick, just think about this for a second. Here's 5 different videos all about the topic of removing background from PowerPoint. Which would you choose? Just based on what you see here, which one would you choose? 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Give you a second. It's okay. Okay, as you think about which one you choose, I want you to think why. What was it about it that made it appealing? And let's look at a couple other pieces of information why you think about that. First of all, the reasons people start watching videos. Number one, the title and description were intriguing, right? Is that what you thought? That it looked intriguing? It looked like it was going to provide value? Number two, the video length was acceptable. Now, we talked about length of video, but there's a range. If someone's thinking that it's going to take them 3 minutes to learn something and you've got a 30-minute video, you might have to skew those expectations a little bit and like, okay, we need to cut back. Or set their expectations about why it's 30 minutes. Third, the video looked entertaining. Four, it had a lot of views. There's some social proof that's happening. So maybe you could think about internally, how do you add that social proof that like, oh, 12 people already watched this and they said this was an excellent tutorial or excellent training. They'd seen that something come from you before. Oh, I love Matt's videos. Those are so great. Maybe the thumbnail was compelling. You can see there's lots of reasons people start watching. We want them to start watching your videos. And so you're going to have to think about these things in addition to what good content you're going to provide. Now here we can look at titles. There's a couple things that stand out to me. Some use dates. So if I'm not using that version of PowerPoint, I can easily eliminate it. That's not a bad thing. It just means I know what they're focused on. If they're focused on PowerPoint 2013 and I'm on version 2021 or whatever the current version is, I know I can skip that. Next, we look at video descriptions. And now these are all pretty well the same in a lot of ways, but you might see things that stand out to you that, oh, if I'm learning to remove a background in PowerPoint, what's going to stand out to me here? What's going to, again, signal me to that's the video for me? Length of video, I know we already looked at this, but I would want to re-emphasize that you want to make sure it fits well with the expectation. Again, if someone's expecting something that should take 3 minutes and you've got a 30-minute video, that's a problem. But if they're expecting it's 3 minutes and it's actually 5, and you can signal to them why your video is a little bit longer, we go into extra detail about X, Y, Z, that might be beneficial. It's okay to tell people. It's okay to provide them with that context so that they understand. Now, in a lot of places, you'll see that videos provide context. In fact, one of the things that I've learned personally from my work is that I like to have the video numbers there. So that way people, again, I'm setting an expectation for them so that if they see like, oh, this is only 3, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, I can do that. Versus again, if it's going to be super long or much, much longer. There is some research that I want to point out here that I think is really important. Dr. Richard Mayer has presented a paper along with his colleagues about 5 ways to increase the effectiveness of instructional video. Some of these will apply directly. Some of these may not apply to what you're doing. In all cases, I think we have to remember these are performed in academic studies. And so the circumstances, the context that they were performed in may not match our real world kind of scenarios. However, I think there's value in understanding these and looking at them. So let's take a first look. So one of the first ideas that they presented was the dynamic drawing principle. Basically, the idea here is that when you are creating a lecture, let's say you're doing a lecture format, something like I'm doing today, and you've got a board and you're going to draw something or write something, that there's effectiveness in actually having a board there that you can actually look at, and you can look at here and show the person, and you can turn back to the camera, you can engage them in that way, and that's going to be more effective than, you know, if it's a kind of ethereal hand writing on the board. This actually works really well because they know exactly what they should be looking at. They know what the new context is, and you're providing them with these drawings kind of real world context. Next up is the gaze guidance principle. Basically, people learn better from a video lecture when the on-screen instructor shifts gaze between the audience and the board while lecturing rather than looking only at the audience or the board. Now, in this case, I don't have a board to draw on, but if I did, it would be helpful for me to shift my focus so that, again, you understand where to look, what I'm referring to. Third one is the generative activity. And this is one of my favorite of the 5 because I think it's one that has the most practical application for us today. It's people learn better from a video lecture when they're asked to engage in summarizing during the learning. So right now, what I'd like you to do is I would like you to take a second and write down several things that you've learned and are going to take away from this presentation. Go ahead. You can, if you're watching post the live, you can pause it. If not, just start scribbling your notes. Just write down a few things, 2, 3 things. And as you do this, we're actually going to help you generate new ideas, really process and summarize the information, and it's going to help you to learn better. Next up is also a really great application, that one I would love to see more research on. It is perspective, and that people learn better from a video lecture that is filmed from a first-person perspective than a third-person perspective. Meaning, if let's say you're going to teach someone how to solder a wire, and you can always film easily from the other side, but if you film it from your perspective and as you're doing the soldering, that is going to be more effective than showing it from the other side. And I think part of the reason here is, and I don't want to misquote Dr. Mayer or put too many assumptions in here, but think about when you're trying to do something and you see it from another angle. It's like, but that's not how I see it. I see it from this way. And I think it's really powerful if you're teaching health and safety or teaching particular physical procedures. What a great opportunity to film it from that first person perspective. It does create some challenges. Where do I put the camera? How do I make it look like that? How do I do that thing? But if you can do it, it's going to be more effective overall. The last one I'll mention here is subtitles. People learn better from a video documentary or show in the learner's second language when printed subtitles are added or used to replace spoken words. Maybe again, not super valuable for us, but it's one of the 5 that Dr. Mayer presents. And I think it's important to see all these things because there is a lot of great research happening around video creation. Now, as I wrap up, a couple things I want to mention. First of all, I do a weekly podcast and live stream. It's on Thursdays. It's on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, or you can find the podcast afterwards on your favorite podcasting aggregator, whether that's Apple, Spotify, whatever it is you choose to use. Just go look for the Visual Lounge. I'm sure you'll find us. We'd love to have you tune in for that. In addition, we have a lot of free tutorials and courses that we created all about creating videos. So writing scripts, storyboarding, lighting, sound, doing these basic things to help you create videos. It's not product specific, but it is free. Just check out academy.techsmith.com or just go search for TechSmith Academy. Check that out, please. The other thing I'll mention is I work for a company called TechSmith. If you're looking for tools to help you make better visuals, like a video editor, screen recorder, allow you to make really powerful screenshots, templates, things like that, we've got Camtasia and Snagit. Would love to have you check those out as well. Go to techsmith.com to find those. Last but not least, I love helping people. I love answering questions. I love giving feedback on videos and giving ideas. Search me out. I'd love to connect with you. If you have any thoughts, questions, ideas, let me know. And thank you again to the Learn World Summit and World of Learning for this opportunity to speak with you guys. I really appreciate it. I hope you've taken a lot away about making better video.